But once again, the need for the amendment is that the legislature is controlled to a large degree, at least the majority of them, by special interests. And that's why we need this in the state constitution. Also, I think that we do need energy independence. I'm not disagreeing we don't need it, but the state of Florida has not stepped up. We should have more state grants, for example, for solar energy. We're not funding properly all these ideas that can really get us independent by putting our money where our mouth is. Fund solar energy, fund wind, fund all these other things that gets us off our dependence on foreign oil. I strongly support that. What I don't support is allowing drilling within 3 miles of our coastline, because we've already seen the potential impact. It's just not worth it to our economy and to our environment and our kids. We need to protect our shoreline. It's the best thing we've got going for us, and I won't do anything that endangers our shoreline.
By way of follow-up to the question that you just asked, since it's quite a heated debate, I'll ask you what your opinion is of the idea of instead or also providing citizens with the option of affordable state renewable energy credits as an alternative to offshore drilling, and what other methods of independence, energy independence, since that's a language you're using, you would support.
Go ahead, Marty. Start.
I think that it's very important that we look at every single option that's out there. I think that whether it's nuclear all the way down to solar panels, we worked hard to get a grant down here to put solar panels up on the dome. The issue was insurance. We couldn't get anybody to insure that initial investment. Wind, we looked at wind options. We don't create enough wind down here. We looked at wave options. We've looked at the options down here, and ultimately we haven't found one. I do believe that what we need to put our greatest investment is in future research and development. We're one technique away from creating something that will allow us to be more energy efficient with what we have. So ultimately, we have looked at all these alternatives, and yes, it's the politically correct thing to say, let's go solar, let's go wind, but the truth of the matter is, the reason why we haven't done it at this particular time, it isn't affordable. Should we give tax credits? Absolutely. Approach at one particular time, we look at a program that allowed for business incentives to write off 100% of what they put into any part of greening their buildings. The city of Key West has more green lodging facilities than anywhere else in our state. Ultimately, we need to explore every option and make sure that we don't take any option too quick, spend all our resources on it just to find out that it comes up short.
I grew up, my father and I were working on a augmented Savonius wind turbine that we are still tweaking the design on. He had a grant as a kid, and ever since then, I have been the strongest advocate of alternative energy because I have seen the effect of how you can just harness free energy. And there are a number of ways, and again on my website I talk about this, and I believe wholeheartedly we should give every kind of tax incentive to anybody developing, manufacturing alternative energy here in the state of Florida. There's things as crazy as what's called the equestrian program, where they actually use horse dung to generate power. I know firsthand in Vermont there is what's called Cow Power, CPPS, a power company up there, has a way to generate from one farm of 100 head of cattle power enough of power 500 houses in the state of Vermont. And that's a program that's going on out there right now. And those are the types of alternative energy. Currents and tides is a tremendous way to generate power, and we should be pursuing those, and that's the kind of investment we can make in a state where you're talking about manufacturing, good jobs, clean jobs, and reducing our dependency on foreign oil. One of the problems, though, with the offshore drilling is, well, if you had a safe way to do it, we don't have that right now. So I'm not supportive of it. But in being in the legislature, if safe ways to do it did come up, regulated well, the potential exists that you should be able to change the legislation and not depend on changing the Constitution. But the tax credits, 100%, we should be doing everything and anything for alternative energy in our state.
Well, going back to the issue of oil drilling, it was, I think 20 years ago, I was at Florida Keys Community College right after the Exxon Valdez. We were talking about the dangers of drilling, just the drilling muds. We didn't even know what drilling muds were. We all were experts in drilling muds back then. We're also now experts in the loop current. Back then we said, if you drill far enough away, maybe the panhandle, maybe it'll be okay. Now we recognize with the loop current and all the possibilities, we can't take that chance anywhere near the state of Florida. It's the solar energy, we need to start putting our money where our mouths are. The legislature has made promises and broken them. We promise people that if you bought something, you get a rebate. People went out and bought it, and then they get the rebate. I think if we're going to have a good economy, we have to encourage clean new industries, and solar energy is the best way to do it. If you have the state or federal government give the tax credits, people will buy the things. If they buy them, then there'll be industries created to supply those materials. But when you stop giving the tax rebates, the people stop buying things, and then the industry stopped making them. So the way to start this is a kickstart. Get the state and federal governments to come up with tax incentives and grants. Get people out there buying the solar energy panels, buying all the other things that use solar energy, and they start buying them, industry will step up and start supplying it, and it'll help get our economy moving. So in addition to having oil independence, it also helps our economy get back to where it needs to be, so everybody has jobs, and money circulates through our economy.
Ron, just as a follow-up, and I wanted to start with another question, but it's so painfully obvious, why isn't it happening? Why isn't it happening?
I assume when you say it, I mean, are you talking about the solar rebates?
Yeah, the solar rebates, the incentives. I mean, what we are, and this, I was going to ask the two Republican candidates this question. There is such a palpable frustration in the electorate, because we are mired as a society in this acrimonious name-calling. My question to the Republican candidates is, given this as just a fact, a way of doing business, are you an independent thinking person, or are you going to be beholden to the party once you get to Tallahassee? And if not, show me some independence, show me some examples of that. And to you, Mr. Saunders, where do we get past this bickering and this name-calling? It is beyond the pale. And quite frankly, the electorate is fed up with it.
First off, I totally agree with you. I think Tallahassee and Washington have gotten too partisan. And I think, Monroe County is a good example. Down here, it literally is one-third, one-third, one-third. One-third Republican, one-third Democrat, one-third no party, no affiliation. So down here, we tend to get along better because we have to. When you get to Tallahassee, it's very partisan. And that's unfortunate. Because I go up to Tallahassee and I tell them I'm a fiscal conservative, social moderate Democrat. And actually, on some issues, I'm more conservative than some Republicans are on fiscal issues. But up there, when you get up there, they start voting straight party line. On some of the votes I've talked about, whether it's cutting pension benefits or supporting oil drilling, they end up being partisan votes. Now, a lot of Republicans came to me after and said, we like the way you voted. I said, why did you vote with me? Because their leadership made them vote that way. So unfortunately, that's just the way things are in Tallahassee. I don't like it, but that's the way it is. When you see party money, for example, coming into the Keys, there's a reason for that. Because the Tallahassee politics are taking control over local politics. And I think that's the problem you see in Tallahassee. That's why you don't have the tax rebates, because there's no big lobby for it. The solar energy folks do not give campaign contributions, and especially the people in charge. Oil industry does. So why does the oil industry get favors and not solar? Money. Follow the money. And until we break that cycle of money creating policy, you're not going to see the good things happen that we did happen in Tallahassee.
And to both Republican candidates, to that end, are you going to be able to demonstrate some political will, some independent thinking, or are you just going to be part of the same old silliness that's been going on far too long?
I think that's a pathetic stereotype. I'm a Republican, proud of it. I believe in the core values of our party. I believe in our forefathers, and I believe that the Constitution is not a living document. That's in place, it's been built, and the foundation has led America to the place that it is, which is great. The idea that money controls it, come on. Coming from the incoming minority leader, look at the money. Your contributions are high too. Ultimately, whether you're a mayor of the city of Key West or elected to the House of Representatives, you have to work with everyone. When I was mayor of the city of Key West, we had more Republicans and Democrats and hardly anybody knew it. You know why? Because we worked as a team. We accomplished a lot. Our mission was simple. Do what's best for our constituency. So the stereotypical mumbo-jumbo is, I think, rhetoric and angry from individuals that are looking at the federal level, but at the state level, I think that the Republican Party has done the constituents of Florida well.
Mr. Talmadge, I'm very excited you asked that question. I've been talking about redesigning state government, and as this campaign has gone on, I've realized that it's also about redefining Republican, and it also is about why I got in this race. Along with you, I'm appalled at what goes on. And to give you an example of exactly what happened in this race. I must remind everybody that the August 24th primary is between Morgan McPherson and myself for the vote of the Republicans out there. My opponent received party support well before the qualifying date, 3 months before the qualifying date. I'm appalled that our state party leaders thought they could come down here to District 120, pick their candidate, and start funneling them money. Once I decided to get in the race, partially because of that, because I disliked the fact that they did that and no one else was going to stand up and say, what do you stand for as a Republican? Because I think my values are a little different than Mr. McPherson's. I said to the party, you make this good. You better make this good. And I have been taking on the state party leaders, and I'll tell you right now, they're no friend of mine. I doubt if I win this primary, they'll give me a penny to go on in this race because they dislike me so much. Because I have used every possible means I can in the media to highlight this. I've also highlighted, because I have the courage to do so because I think it's completely wrong, what our local Republican Party leaders are doing in this county by not standing up to the state party. This is pathetic that they can accept that they can come down here and give thousands and thousands of dollars, full-time support staff to somebody as a Republican and then not match that because they shouldn't be getting in a primary before the people decide on August 24th. And I stand by that. Go to the website, read my press releases. I'm appalled, and I'm sure you're a senator. And that's the difference between me and Morgan McPherson right there.